Shattered glass Olivia Jenkins adjusted her camera, capturing the Manhattan skyline through her studio window. Golden hour transformed the glass towers into pillars of flame, a fitting backdrop for her final night in the city. Tomorrow everything would change. Her hand drifted unconsciously to her still flat stomach as she rehearsed the words once more. The elevator to Julian Reed's penthouse ascended with unsettling smoothness. At 34, Julian had revolutionized financial technology, amassing a fortune that allowed him to shape the world to his precise specifications. Olivia had been the exception, the variable he hadn't planned for, the person who made him feel rather than calculate. "You're distracted tonight," Julian noted, pouring 2 glasses of wine before noticing her hesitation. His dark eyes narrowed with perception that had made him millions. "What's wrong?" "I can't drink this," Olivia said quietly, pushing the crystal glass away. "And I won't be able to for quite some time." Understanding dawned slowly across his face, transforming his expression from confusion to shock. "You're pregnant." 8 weeks, she confirmed, studying the subtle changes in his posture, the tightening of his shoulders, the slight step backward. "I know we never discussed this possibility, but—" "This isn't possible," Julian interrupted, running a hand through his meticulously styled hair. "We were careful." Apparently not careful enough. Olivia attempted a smile that failed to materialize. "I'm not asking for anything, Julian. I just thought you should know." Julian's gaze grew distant, as though examining invisible projections only he could see. "This changes everything." "It doesn't have to," Olivia ventured, reaching for his hand. "We could figure this out together." He withdrew from her touch, moving toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. "My company is entering a critical expansion phase. The board is watching every move I make. A child. A family. That was never part of my plan." "Plans change," Olivia said, her voice growing smaller with each passing second. "Mine don't." His words fell like ice between them. "I've built everything through precise control, Olivia." "This is chaotic. It's a baby, Julian, not a market crash." He turned, his expression schooled into the same impassive mask he wore for business negotiations. "I'll arrange for financial support, of course." "Whatever you need." Olivia felt something fragile shatter inside her chest. "What I needed was for you to say we would figure this out together." "I've always been honest about who I am," Julian replied, his voice softening slightly. "I'm not father material. I never claimed to be." "And I never asked you to change," Olivia whispered. "Until now, when it matters most." The ensuing silence stretched between them like a widening chasm. Outside, darkness had fallen over the city, the lights of neighboring buildings blinking like distant stars. "I think we should end this now," Julian finally said, clinical precision in every syllable. "It would be kinder than pretending I can be something I'm not." Olivia nodded, tears threatening but held firmly in check. With trembling fingers, she removed the delicate silver bracelet he had given her on their first anniversary, a constellation of tiny stars that had once symbolized possibility. "Goodbye." "Julian," she left the bracelet on the marble countertop, a small silver puddle reflecting the cold light above. The elevator descended with the same smooth efficiency as before, but Olivia barely noticed. Her mind was already elsewhere, planning, calculating, determining how to reshape a future suddenly emptied of everything familiar. Outside, the November air bit at her cheeks, freezing the first tears before they could fall. She walked 16 blocks before hailing a taxi, her decision solidifying with each step. By morning, she would be gone from New York, from Julian's carefully controlled world. She placed both hands protectively over her stomach. "It's just us now," she whispered. "But we'll be okay." Across the city, Julian stood motionless at his window, watching the endless stream of lights below, feeling something irreplaceable slip through his fingers like sand. Fragments of time 3 years passed like falling leaves, at first slow and deliberate, then suddenly gone. Olivia adjusted the settings on her camera, focusing on the wildflower meadow where her son Noah explored with boundless curiosity. His dark curls caught the sunlight, reminding her painfully of Julian with each turn of his head. "Mama, look!" Noah called, proudly holding up a dandelion gone to seed. At 2.5, he possessed Julian's intensity and her creativity, a combination that both delighted and terrified her. "Beautiful, sweetheart," she answered, capturing the moment with her camera. These photographs would join hundreds of others in albums Julian had never seen. Portland had become their sanctuary, far enough from New York to feel safe, close enough to the natural beauty that inspired her work. After Noah's birth, Olivia had transformed her hobby into a thriving career, specializing in environmental photography that had recently caught the attention of National Geographic. "That's quite a talent you've got," remarked Tessa, her gallery manager and closest friend, approaching with 2 cups of coffee. "The Baldwin Foundation exhibition opens next month. You ready?" Olivia's stomach tightened. "The Baldwin Foundation? As in Thomas Baldwin, Julian's uncle?" "The very same." Tessa's expression shifted to concern. "Is that going to be a problem?" Olivia watched Noah blow the dandelion seeds into the wind, his laughter carrying across the meadow. "It shouldn't be." Julian barely spoke to his uncle. "I doubt he'll even attend. This could be your breakthrough. Liv, your work deserves recognition." That evening, after tucking Noah into bed with stories of adventurous bears and clever foxes, Olivia opened her laptop to find an email from Thomas Baldwin himself, praising her environmental series and requesting her presence at the opening gala in New York. Her finger hovered over the delete button before moving reluctantly to reply. She had stopped running the day Noah was born. Perhaps it was time to face the shadows she'd left behind. 2 weeks later, Olivia stood in her childhood bedroom in her father's Connecticut home, staring at her reflection. The emerald dress complemented her auburn hair, now cut in a sharp bob that framed her face with newfound confidence. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," her father said from the doorway, Noah perched on his hip. At 70, Richard Jenkins had embraced grandfatherhood with unexpected enthusiasm. "Are you sure you're okay watching him tonight?" Richard smiled, bouncing Noah gently. "We've got big plans, don't we, buddy? Blanket forts and dinosaur stories." Noah nodded solemnly, clutching his stuffed triceratops. "Remember," Olivia said, kissing Noah's forehead, "Mama will be back tomorrow morning. Be good for Grandpa." As her taxi approached the glittering Manhattan Gallery, Olivia steeled herself against memories that threatened to surface with each familiar landmark. 3 years had changed her profoundly, from a woman blindsided by heartbreak to a mother and artist standing firmly in her own light. The Baldwin Gallery hummed with New York's elite, champagne flowing as freely as commentary on the exhibited works. Olivia moved through the crowd, graciously accepting compliments on her photographs. Stark, beautiful images of endangered landscapes that spoke of both fragility and resilience. "Ms. Jenkins?" Thomas Baldwin appeared beside her, distinguished in his 70s with the same penetrating gaze as his nephew. "Your work exceeds even my expectations." "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Baldwin. Thomas, please." He smiled, eyes crinkling. "I've been following your career with great interest. Your perspective on vulnerability in natural spaces is quite moving." Before she could respond, the crowd shifted, and across the room, Olivia glimpsed a familiar profile. Julian stood examining one of her photographs, his posture unchanged, confident, commanding, utterly still. Her heart hammered against her ribs as Thomas followed her gaze. "Ah, my nephew has arrived," he said with an enigmatic smile. "You know, Julian recently endowed a conservation initiative that complements your work beautifully." "I didn't know," Olivia managed, wondering if the room had always been this warm. "Perhaps you should discuss it with him," Thomas suggested, guiding her forward before she could object. "Julian, there's someone you must meet." Julian turned, and the world collapsed to a pinpoint. Recognition, shock, and something undefinable flashed across his face as their eyes met for the first time in 3 years. "Olivia," he said, her name barely audible above the gallery's hum. Thomas glanced between them, realization dawning. "You've met?" "Once," Olivia replied, finding her voice. a lifetime ago. Reflections in Blue Julian's world had been meticulously reconstructed after Olivia disappeared. His company, Reed Tech, expanded into international markets. His penthouse was redesigned, eliminating every trace of her presence. Yet sometimes, in quiet moments between meetings and milestones, her absence echoed like footsteps in an empty corridor. Now she stood before him, transformed, her eyes holding a depth he'd never seen, her posture radiating a quiet strength that made his carefully ordered universe tilt on its axis. "Your photographs are remarkable," Julian said, defaulting to professional courtesy while his mind raced. "You've built quite a career." "Thank you," Olivia replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Life has been instructive." Thomas excused himself with practiced discretion, leaving them suspended in a moment neither had anticipated. "You disappeared," Julian stated, the accusation gentle but unmistakable. "No forwarding address, no contact information. I needed space to rebuild," she answered honestly. "You made your position clear that night." The weight of unspoken questions hung between them. But before Julian could respond, a business associate approached, eager for introduction. Olivia used the interruption to retreat, making her way toward a quiet alcove where her signature piece, a solitary tree standing amidst devastated forest, hung in perfect isolation. Julian found her there 20 minutes later. After obligatory conversations he couldn't recall. "We need to talk," he said, maintaining careful distance. "Properly." "Not here." Olivia studied him, noting the new lines around his eyes, the slight silver threading his temples. "I'm staying with my father in Connecticut. Returning to Portland tomorrow afternoon." "Portland," Julian repeated, processing this information. "Have dinner with me tonight. There's a quiet place near Central Park." Something in his expression, vulnerability perhaps, or simple curiosity, made her nod against her better judgment. The restaurant was indeed quiet, a private room with windows overlooking the darkened park. Julian ordered for them both, remembering her preferences with unsettling accuracy. "Why Portland?" he asked once they were alone. "It's beautiful, affordable, far from New York." She smiled faintly. "All good reasons when starting over." "And are you happy there?" The question surprised her. Julian had never been one for emotional inquiries. "I am. My work is fulfilling. I've made good friends." Julian nodded, studying his wine. "I looked for you," he admitted. "After a few months, I realized I'd made a terrible mistake." "But you'd vanished completely." "That was intentional," Olivia said, her heart beating traitorously fast. "I needed to build something that was entirely mine." "And did you?" His eyes held hers, searching. "Build something?" The moment crystallized around them. 3 years of separate lives converging on a single question that would change everything. Olivia took a deep breath. "Yes," she said quietly. "I built a life for myself." "And for our son." Julian went completely still, color draining from his face. "Our son?" "Noah," she confirmed, reaching for her phone and finding a recent photograph. Noah laughing in the meadow, dandelion seeds swirling around him like tiny stars. "He's 2.5. Julian stared at the image, recognition and disbelief warring in his expression. The boy's features were unmistakable. His eyes, his jawline, even the slight furrow of concentration as he examined the flower. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, voice hoarse. "You made it clear you wanted no part of this," Olivia answered, putting her phone away. "I respected your choice." "My choice was made without full information," Julian countered, anger and confusion battling for dominance. "You should have told me." "Perhaps," she conceded. "But at the time, protecting my child, protecting myself, seemed more important than your right to know about a responsibility you'd already rejected." Julian fell silent, processing implications that rippled through his carefully constructed life. Finally, he asked, "What does he know about me? That his father lives far away? That he's very smart and builds important things?" Olivia's voice softened. "I've never spoken badly of you, Julian. I wouldn't do that to him." "I want to meet him," Julian said, the words emerging with unexpected certainty. Olivia studied him carefully. This isn't a business acquisition. You can't simply decide you want him and make it happen overnight. I understand that, Julian replied, surprising her with his restraint. But he's my son. I've already missed nearly 3 years of his life. By choice, she reminded him gently. By ignorance, he corrected. A situation you created. They regarded each other across the table. 3 years of separate growth, creating a new landscape to navigate. Finally, Olivia nodded. We're staying with my father through the weekend. You can meet Noah tomorrow. But Julian, she added, her expression serious, if you enter his life, you can't simply leave when it becomes inconvenient. He deserves better than that. So did you, Julian said quietly. Bridges over troubled waters. Julian arrived at Richard Jenkins's colonial home precisely at 10, bearing a carefully selected stuffed elephant and a children's book about stars. His normally steady hands trembled slightly as he approached the door. Richard answered, his assessment of Julian deliberate and unhurried. She said you'd come, he remarked, stepping aside. Noah's in the garden with Olivia. Julian followed Richard through the house, noting photographs of Olivia's progression through pregnancy and Noah's early months, moments forever lost to him. In the sunlit garden, Olivia sat with Noah on a checkered blanket, helping him stack wooden blocks that inevitably tumbled. Mama, again! Noah laughed, his voice hitting Julian like a physical force. Olivia looked up, noticing Julian's arrival. She whispered something to Noah, who turned with innocent curiosity. Noah, she said gently, this is your daddy. Remember how we talked about him? Noah regarded Julian with solemn consideration, his small features so familiar it ached. You build tall buildings? Julian crouched to Noah's level, careful to maintain space. Sometimes. I build computer systems mostly. Would you like to see what I brought you? The elephant and book were received with grave appreciation, Noah immediately demanding the story be read. Julian sat cautiously on the blanket's edge, opening the book while Noah settled unexpectedly against his side, as though finding a long, empty space precisely his size. Olivia watched them, Julian's deep voice explaining constellations, Noah's small finger tracing illustrations. 2 dark heads bent together in identical concentration. The sight created an unbearable tightness in her chest. Richard appeared beside her, offering coffee. You okay, sweetheart? I don't know, she admitted. Seeing them together, it's more affecting than I expected. He seems different from how you described him. Olivia nodded. 3 years changes people. By afternoon, Noah had adopted Julian with the uncomplicated acceptance of childhood, proudly showing his collection of rocks and attempting to teach him the names of dinosaurs. Julian absorbed each lesson with genuine interest, his usual impatience nowhere visible. When Noah napped, Olivia found Julian standing before the living room's gallery wall, photographs documenting milestones he'd missed. First steps? He asked, indicating a blurred image of Noah mid-stride. 13 months, Olivia confirmed. He was early with everything, walking, talking, making his opinions known. Julian smiled faintly. That sounds familiar. He reminds me of you sometimes, she admitted. The way he concentrates. His determination. He has your creativity, Julian observed. Your kindness. The compliment hung between them, unexpected and sincere. Olivia busied herself straightening Noah's toys, uncomfortable with the moment's intimacy. I've been thinking, Julian said carefully. I'd like to be part of his life. Regularly, not just occasional visits. That's a significant commitment, Olivia cautioned. Your life is in New York. Ours is in Portland. Things can be arranged. His tone suggested solutions already formulating. I can travel. Open a West Coast office. Julian, I've missed too much already, he interrupted, uncharacteristic emotion coloring his voice. I don't want to miss any more. Olivia studied him, searching for the calculating businessman who'd dismissed their future so coldly. Instead, she found something new. Uncertainty, regret, and a vulnerability he'd never allowed before. This isn't just about Noah, is it? She asked quietly. Julian met her gaze directly. No, he admitted. It's not. Before they could continue, Noah's voice called from upstairs, awake from his nap. The conversation paused, but something had shifted between them, fragile and undefined, but undeniably present. The weekend passed in moments of discovery. Julian learning Noah's routines, preferences, the specific way he needed his sandwiches cut. Noah delighting in showing his father everything, bugs, clouds, the proper technique for blowing bubbles. Olivia watching their tentative bond form with emotions too complex to name. Sunday arrived too quickly, their departure for Portland looming. Julian helped load their bags, his expression growing more reserved with each passing minute. "I'd like to visit next weekend," he said, as Olivia buckled Noah into his car seat. "If that's acceptable?" Olivia straightened, studying him. "You'd fly to Portland every weekend?" "If necessary." His certainty was absolute. "I meant what I said. I want to be part of his life. Part of—" He hesitated. "I'd like us to see if there's still something worth rebuilding." "Julian, just think about it," he said gently. "That's all I'm asking." Noah waved enthusiastically as they drove away, Julian standing in the driveway until their car disappeared from sight. Beside her, Noah clutched his new elephant, chattering about Daddy and stars, and when they would see him again. Olivia's phone chimed with a message from Julian. "Thank you for this weekend. For everything. There's so much more I want to say." She didn't reply immediately, unsure where this new path might lead. The past couldn't be undone, yet the future suddenly held possibilities she'd long since abandoned. Prisms of Light 6. Months of careful navigation followed, Julian flying to Portland every other weekend, Noah's excited countdowns to daddy days, video calls that grew from awkward to essential. Olivia watched Julian transform from uncertain visitor to confident father, endlessly patient with Noah's questions and boundless energy. Spring arrived with unexpected news. National Geographic offered Olivia a prestigious assignment documenting endangered Pacific Northwest ecosystems, a career-defining opportunity requiring extensive travel. "I can't accept," she told Tessa, pacing her kitchen while Julian built block towers with Noah in the living room. "The timing is impossible." "Because of Noah or because of Julian?" Tessa challenged gently. Olivia paused, considering. "Both. Neither. I don't know." That evening, after Noah's bedtime, Olivia shared the news with Julian as they sat on her small porch. "Portland's lights shimmering below. You have to take it," Julian said immediately. "It's exactly what you've been working toward." "I can't leave Noah for weeks at a time." Julian considered carefully before responding. "What if he stayed with me during your longer trips?" The suggestion hung between them, significant beyond the practical arrangement it proposed. "In New York?" Olivia asked. "I've been considering a change," Julian admitted. "Reed Tech's Portland office is doing well. I could base myself here temporarily, maintain my New York obligations remotely. You'd relocate for 6 months. What about your company?" "Some things matter more," he said simply. "I've learned that recently." The following weeks brought transformation. Julian leasing a house near Olivia's, Noah delighting in having both parents within reach, and Olivia embarking on her assignment with cautious optimism. Between photography expeditions, they created a tentative family rhythm: Sunday pancakes, playground afternoons, bedtime stories with both voices harmonizing. What remained unspoken was the growing current between Olivia and Julian, neither quite ready to define what was evolving. Summer arrived with complications. A corporate crisis demanded Julian's presence in New York indefinitely. Noah, now 3, struggled with the disruption to their newfound stability. "Why can't Daddy stay?" he asked as Olivia packed his overnight bag for their flight to New York, where Noah would stay while she completed her final photography expedition. "Daddy has important work," she explained, though the answer felt insufficient even to her. In New York, Julian's penthouse had transformed. Child-proofed corners, dinosaur pajamas in drawers, photographs of Noah adorning previously minimalist walls. Olivia noted these changes with quiet appreciation as Julian showed Noah his city home. "He'll be fine," Julian assured her the night before her departure. They stood on his terrace. Manhattan spread before them like a galaxy of earthbound stars. I've arranged my schedule around his routine. It's not that, Olivia admitted. It's just, we've created something I never expected. Something good? I'm afraid of losing it again. Julian turned to her, his expression serious. I'm not the same person who let you walk away 3 years ago. I know, she said softly. Do you? He moved closer, the distance between them narrowing physically and emotionally. Because I need you to understand something. When you disappeared, you took part of me with you. Meeting Noah, seeing you again, it's shown me what actually matters. Olivia studied him, searching for the calculation she'd once known. Finding only sincerity, she allowed herself to acknowledge what had been building for months. I never stopped loving you, she confessed. Even when I hated you for breaking my heart. Julian reached for her hand, entwining their fingers. I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm asking for one anyway. Their kiss was hesitant at first, a reconnection layered with memory and new discovery. When they separated, Olivia felt tears on her cheeks, unsure if they were hers or his. We do this right this time, she whispered. Slowly, thoughtfully, Noah comes first. Always, Julian agreed. 2 weeks later, Olivia's assignment complete. She returned to Julian's penthouse to find it transformed again, this time with a gallery of her photographs installed in the living room, Noah proudly pointing to his favorites. Daddy made a surprise, he announced, leading her by hand, for your coming home party. Julian appeared from the kitchen, uncertainty beneath his confident exterior. Too much? Olivia shook her head, overwhelmed by the gesture, not just the photographs, but the acknowledgement of her work, her passion, her identity beyond motherhood. That evening, after Noah slept, they sat surrounded by her images of resilient nature and fragile beauty. What happens now? Olivia asked, leaning against Julian's shoulder. Your life is here. Mine is in Portland. Actually, Julian began, uncharacteristic nervousness in his voice. I've been considering a more permanent arrangement. Reed Tech is opening a major environmental technology division. We need a Portland headquarters. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Convenient timing. Strategic planning, he corrected with a smile that softened to seriousness. The truth is, home isn't New York anymore. It's wherever you and Noah are, Olivia considered his words. The journey that had brought them to this moment. From heartbreak to healing. From separation to unexpected reunion. We still have so much to figure out, she cautioned. Julian nodded, taking her hand. One day at a time, he promised. We have the rest of our lives to get it right. Outside the window, New York glittered with possibility. Tomorrow they would fly to Portland, beginning the complex process of weaving 3 separate lives into one shared future. The path wouldn't be simple. Nothing worthwhile ever was, but as Noah had shown them both, love created its own kind of resilience, strong enough to weather even the deepest wounds, bright enough to illuminate the way forward.